With me to examine Assemblyman Anderson's proposal and why our state is again paralyzed by politics are John Warren, editor and publisher of San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, and Bob Kittle, KUSI political analyst and director of news planning and content. Let's get right to it. What is your opinion, Bob, of Assemblyman Anderson's idea?
I think it makes eminent good sense. It would be a bookkeeping nightmare, I suspect, for the state, but it only makes sense. If the state owes you money and is demanding that you pay your taxes, you ought to be able to pay your taxes with that same IOU that the state has given you.
Are you as enthusiastic about it as Bob is?
I think from a citizen standpoint, yes, but from the state standpoint, there's going to be a loss of cash revenue that would have been coming in, and so that creates the nightmare on the part of the very people who are charged with correcting the problem.
He's a Republican and with a minority party and a deeply divided legislature. What chance do you think he has that this bill will actually get through?
Well, from his standpoint, he says he has a good chance. He's got Democratic bipartisan support. The governor is against it. The real issue is, how will the Democrats look at it as a whole? I think in the final analysis, it will not happen, that we will end up getting a budget long before the bill has a chance to pass.
You think so?
As far away as the budget is, I think so.
So no IOUs?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the criticism of the state legislature's inability to pass a budget. It's widespread, and it seems to happen every year, Bob. Why?
Well, there are two factors. One is the general political polarization in Sacramento. The Republicans tend to be far to the right, even for Republicans. The Democrats tend to be far to the left, even for Democrats. But secondly, when it comes to passing a budget, the state constitution requires a 2/3 vote of both houses of the legislature. So it means there have to be some compromises made. The majority party, the Democrats, cannot pass a budget on their own. And this deadlock where the Democrats basically want to preserve current spending and raise taxes is offset by the Republicans wanting to not raise taxes and instead to cut spending.
But there may be something that is going to change all that. Proposition 25, it's going to be on the November ballot, and it would allow state budget and tax increases to be decided by a majority of the voters rather than 2/3. Is that what's needed?
Well, we could say that it's needed, but it's not likely that I think the voters will support it, because the same people who are with the Republicans that want no tax increase will fight any chance that would create an atmosphere in which it would be more likely. And so I think from the Democratic standpoint, we'll have a push. The question is, what part will this play in the election as we move toward November?
But that's going to be so interesting. The campaigns for and against Proposition 25. Who's going to be campaigning for it? Who's going to be campaigning against it?
Well, in general, Gloria, the Democrats are for it because they control the legislature and they could pass a budget without a single Republican vote as the membership of the legislature now stands. Republicans are against it because they see the 2/3 requirement to pass a vote, that is 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the Assembly, as a check on tax increases primarily, because you have to have a 2/3 majority to pass a budget and to raise taxes. Frankly, I think that's a safeguard that the voters ought to keep, but I think there's going to be probably a lot of popular support for this just because it seems like it will appear to many people as a way to cut through the budget stalemates that we have every year at this time.
And that we are talking about even now, but a lot of people feel that it's the leadership that would get us out of the budget stalemates. Like the governor should be able to do this, and right now he's checked out according to some people. But from what we've heard about the gubernatorial candidates, Meg Whitman, Jerry Brown, does either have a plan or the political skill needed to lead the state out of these traditional problems?
Well, Meg Whitman claims that she does, and she points to her eBay experience and says that she can do the same thing with the state. Jerry Brown, on the other hand, has the kind of recognition that will drive many people to him just because they're comfortable with him in spite of some of the objections in terms of his past track record. We know that in a crisis, people go more with comfort than they do with logic. So I think the chances are that the pendulum will swing toward Jerry Brown.
I have to get your comment on this.
I don't think either Meg Whitman or Jerry Brown will change the culture in Sacramento very much. But one thing that may help is that starting in 2012, we will have fair district boundaries for the Assembly and the State Senate instead of the legislature gerrymandering the districts. When a legislator does not come from a safe district, as they nearly all do today, they're more responsive to the needs of the people, and the polarization, I think, will be lessened.